Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton with episode 119. Today we have an interview with Joe Carr, the co-founder of Serenity Kids, and they make food for kids. Things that if you look at them without reading the packaging, you might be like, well, this is just another baby food brand. Do I really need to feed my kids purees? What's going on? Has Kim lost her mind? But when you learn the underlying philosophy of why this company was created, I think you'll maybe have a different idea of why I wanted to talk to them. So they are very focused on health as a long-term important thing, and that it all starts from when we're born and what we feed our kids. Both Joe and his wife have overcome many health adversities and use food to manage their conditions and live happy lives. And so I wanted to talk to them about really being one of the very best options on the ready-made kids market. So join us as we interview Joe Carr of Serenity Kids. Hey, this is Kim Howerton, and I am here with Joseph Carr, who is the founder. Are you a co-founder?
Mm-hmm.
Co-founder of Serenity Kids. And tell me a little bit about what Serenity Kids is and who you are.
Yeah, well, my wife Serenity and I started Serenity Kids for our baby Della, who's now 4. And at the time, we were looking for healthy baby foods and didn't like what we were found out there. So we've created a line of baby and toddler foods that focus on nutrient density, most nutrient dense foods, which for us are well-sourced meats, good healthy fats, organic vegetables, and never any sugary fruits or added sugars, never any grains or low nutrition fillers, and then all very thoroughly quality tested, including for heavy metals, to ensure that it's the cleanest and most nutrient dense foods possible.
Great. So how long have you guys been in business then?
So we started the company about 6 years ago. And before we were even pregnant, actually, we started looking for baby foods when we were trying to get pregnant. And then in the process, launched the company, and then the products launched the same day our baby was born, August 5th.
Wow.
2018, August 5th. So it was not on purpose, but highly synchronistic. It was always meant to be that day. And since then, so almost 4 years now that we've been selling products and growing the company rapidly.
And are you in stores or are you primarily online?
We're everywhere. So we have
Okay.
a huge online business, Amazon, website, lots of online grocery stores like Thrive Market, and then in all natural food stores in the country. So pretty much every natural food, Whole Foods, Sprouts, natural grocers, co-ops, things like that. And most conventional stores, including Walmart, Target, Kroger.
Oh, wow.
So you can find us in almost every grocery store near you.
Is that a little hectic? The
That's
growth curve?
It is very hectic growing. We're in 10,000 stores. So
Yeah.
we went from 0 to 10,000 in under 4 years. And it's been a crazy rocket ship ride, but really fulfilling to be able to reach so many babies.
So which was is your first product still on the market?
Yes.
Which
We
one was
launched
that?
with our grass-fed beef and sweet potato and our chicken, pea, and carrot, which are they're still our 2 top-selling products. They were our first ones, and they are the best ones, the favorite ones.
Got it. And so tell me how you came to have the food philosophy you have. And I guess that's kind of similar to why you felt like it was important to do this, to start this company.
Totally. Yeah, my wife and I both had a lot of food issues as children. She was very sick as a kid, lots of heavy antibiotic use, really bad gut issues, tons of stomach pain. She was really underweight, always sick, got sick, more antibiotics, more gut pain, more sick, so forth, that cycle. And in adulthood, had so much stomach pain that she discovered that she, rather than be on medication the rest of her life, is what her doctor said, she could change her diet and really improve her gut issues through what became to be called the paleo diet, like very meat, veggie focused. I'm autistic, was not diagnosed as a child, so had a lot of social issues, but also a lot of physical and food issues, was a super picky eater, was overweight, did my first diet at age 8. We have that in common. I started calorie counting when I was 8 years old, in the 80s is, like low fat. And I was like, low fat everything and all that stuff. Of course, like just torturing myself. As a picky eater, also trying to calorie count was like pretty rough. And have been on a journey to integrate my autism, and food became a part of that. Like changing diet there's more and more research. And when I met Serenity, she introduced me to the paleo diet and really fell in love with her and paleo at the same time, really realizing that my body just doesn't tolerate inflammatory foods. Like I'm just very sensitive to inflammation. And so cutting out grains, cutting out sugars, cutting out industrial seed oils, processed foods was really powerful for adding just stability and, really helped with my mood and overall health issues. So we were both very into food. When we started planning to have a baby, the first thing we thought of was food. Was like, what are we going to feed our baby? Because we don't want our child to turn out the way we did, and have to do all this crazy healing in adulthood. And so we looked for baby foods, and we were so outraged at what we found. I mean, it was all sugar. It was the entire baby food aisle was sugar and grains. Fruit, sugar, grains, a little bit of vegetables, no meat, no fat. And Serenity's, did what she calls her summer of nerddom during 2016, where she researched baby food because she'd become fairly good expert in adult nutrition, but didn't know much about baby food, and determined that breast milk is nature's perfect baby food. And half the calories from breast milk are from fat. Mm-hmm. And then there's protein and carbs and it's an animal product. So really the best first foods after breast milk are animal products, lots of fat, good meat, and vegetable carbs, which are the highest quality carbs if you're going to eat carbs. And so that didn't exist. There was no baby food that looked like that at all. So we went to the kitchen and started making it. We didn't have a baby. We weren't even pregnant. We found babies and our friends' babies and their friends' friends to test it. And we made baby food. And those first initial recipes, the beef and the chicken, were two of the big winners from our initial taste tests in our kitchen with local babies. And we launched those. It was a long journey to get them launched. A lot of difficult production challenges, had to overcome, had to create our whole own supply chain of pureed, regeneratively farmed, grass-fed and pasture-raised meats. So there were a lot of challenges, but we finally got through them, launched same day our baby was born, and have been really a rocket ship ever since then. We now have 25 different products in 3 different categories in, like I said, 10,000 stores.
Got it. Awesome. So you might have heard, I know you live in Austin, you've definitely heard of baby-led weaning, right? Like a lot of people are into the concept. Yep. So why would you think we need a baby food as opposed to like baby-led weaning might cover all the bases?
Yeah, baby-led weaning, the idea of baby-led weaning is, you let baby decide when they're done with breast milk. You let baby really explore lots of different foods, try different foods, hold different foods. Even if they can't eat them, like they don't have enough teeth, they can pick it up.
Suck on them. And
they can chew on it, suck on it. It's great. We love it. I mean, it's a great way to learn food. We love trusting your child, and there's different philosophies about the role purees play in baby-led weaning. Some people would say you shouldn't ever give them any purees. They should only eat real foods. And then there's some people who don't even believe in baby-led weaning that say all purees. We're very much in the middle where we think there's a place for purees and there's a place for picking up and holding foods, especially on the go. I mean, it's very hard in this busy world if you're traveling or if you're sending them to mother-in-law and you don't know what she's going to possibly give them to eat, to give them, to have to make all these foods, to cut up everything, to create lots of soft foods. Additionally, meat being one of the most important foods, you're going to have to pre-chew it. Like that's the only other way for them to really eat a significant amount of meat is if you chew it for them, which is it's called pre-mastication. It's been done for thousands of years. A lot of people don't want to do it. I did it for my daughter, but like a lot of people don't want to. So you almost have to puree the meat Doing that yourself is very hard, cooking it up, pureeing it, finding the right balances, freezing it or put it in the fridge. Again, very hard if you're on the go. So we believe in a mix of purees and baby led weaning, and a mix of packaged purees and homemade purees. Definitely always let them eat off your plate. Like, that's really important that they eat off your plate. Obviously, fresh made foods are always the best, but there's a place for packaged foods in our busy world. And we wanted to make a packaged food that did not require compromise. That if I'm going to give a packaged food, at least I don't have to compromise on the ingredients. And in some respects, our sourcing and our quality testing is so rigorous. It's, you can almost feel better about our foods than what you buy in the grocery store, particularly when it comes to heavy metals, because heavy metals are throughout our soil, and most vegetables in the grocery store have some amount of heavy metals. So we do very elaborate testing to find the lowest heavy metal, vegetables. And then our meat sourcing is really incredible. I mean, we're, pasture raised, family farm, regeneratively farmed, high fat meat cuts, which are very hard to find in the grocery store. Particularly, the lean meat is so big that it's hard to find good fatty meat, and it's hard to find regeneratively farmed meat. And so, we can upgrade those ingredients because of the scale we have, and then really mix that with the introduction of real foods and homemade foods.
Got it. All right, great. I love that. Tell me, do you have any my personal opinion is I don't think kids have to be super carb limited from whole food, vegetables and some fruits and things. I'm not that kind of keto, right? But do you have any macro rules around your foods, or how does that come into play?
Because our primary foods are designed for first foods for babies 6+ months, so 6 months right at that time of foods, our macros are focused on the breast milk macros. So we use breast milk macronutrients as our template. And like I said, breast milk is about half fat, half carbs with some protein. So as they get older, they need more and more protein. So ours are a little more protein than breast milk because we're using those really good meats. But the fat to carb ratio is still very important to us. That there's as much fat as there is carbs in all of our purees, and also our formula is the same way, that it's very, very fat to carb balanced, and then protein and vitamins and fiber and other nutrients come in on top of that.
Got it. So could you kind of say the products designed for the 6-month-old are more fat, little less protein to match that breast milk, and then as they go into toddlerhood, maybe that protein ratio comes up a little bit?
That would be, yes, if you for you making your own foods or choosing foods for your baby, that's how we do it. We just make all of our products to be good for 6 months.
Okay.
Because we just think fat and carb balance should always be there, even as they get older. And then the protein, they do need more, so they're going to need to eat foods besides ours. Like, you wouldn't want to use just our food at 2-3 years old,
Makes sense.
We would want to be using them as more like a snack, and then they're also eating meats and eggs and things like that.
Got it. That totally makes sense. So you started with a baby line, and then you added a toddler line. And it sounds like the toddler line is focused on fill in the gap foods rather than primary. How did you come to those choices?
Well, we have grown the company with our daughter. So she's our main taste tester. So the products launched when she was born. So by the time she was 6 months, it could eat them. We had a pretty good variety. We had a mix we have a veggie fat line that's really just that carb to fat ratio without much protein. And then we have our meat veggie fat line. And then we've also, as she got a little older, launched a bone broth line that has more protein and more flavor. We used more herbs and aromatics to have a more toddler friendly palate, so that 18 months, 2 years old range, as well as, but they're perfectly great to introduce to 6-month-olds, because introducing complex flavors early is really important for expanding a baby's palate. And then we launched our puffs, which our grain-free puffs are, definitely a in-between meal snack. Some people call them an occupier, just give the hand to mouth, give them something to chew on. They're pretty low calorie, like they don't replace food, but they're grain free. So they're made from cassava flour. So they've got they're made from a vegetable. They've got a good amount of fat. They've got some protein from bone broth. So we have a dehydrated bone broth that is mixed in there. plus olive oil and herbs. So they're also a flavor palate expander. All the different puffs have various strong vegetable flavors. So they really introduce those veggie flavors, but also taste really good, and are just a good occupier in a way that adds a little nutrition. But like I said, they're low calorie. They're not really designed to be a food. They're more of a passive eating experience, like maybe you think of popcorn. And then we have a formula which is technically classified as a toddler formula. We're only allowed to recommend it for babies aged 12 months and up, but was designed to mimic breast milk more than any other formula ever has. And many parents, with consultation of their health provider, may choose to use it to supplement or even replace breast milk at a younger age.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that, because one of the real struggles in the community I'm in the keto community, is we're all very pro breastfeeding. Obviously, it's the nature's best food, but also we don't want to be complete asshats who don't understand that there are reasons that sometimes that doesn't work out. Maybe you adopted even, and that's certainly not going to work out. What was the development of this? And I understand what you're saying. Legally, you can't say this is for younger children. There are limits. But obviously, yes, you can talk to your doctor and say, do you think this is appropriate for a younger child? And then your doctor gets to help you.
Yes.
So what's in it and how did that develop?
Totally. So our baby weaned herself at 9 months old.
Okay.
Which we had planned to breastfeed 2 years plus. That was like you. We were very pro breast milk, and we were committed to that. And she just had latch issues. She had a lip tie that we didn't get revised early enough. So breastfeeding was really painful, which led to being difficult for Serenity, and her supply kept going down. So she weaned herself at 9 months, and we had to turn to formula. Before that, we were supplementing with donated breast milk just from our friends and wherever we could find it. And so Serenity turned to formula and did a lot of research on it, being the nutrition nerd she is, and was, of course, horrified with the ingredients of formula. We ended up using European formulas, which were the least of the evils. They were better ingredients overall, but still had stuff we didn't like. They all had industrial seed oils. They all had synthetic folic acid, which is problematic for most babies. They mostly didn't contain fiber. And just the fat source was inferior if you're using industrial seed oils instead of whole milk. There was no whole milk formulas, like they were using non-fat milk and mixing seed oils in to make up the fat difference. So she compromised and fed it to him. We were also using bone broth, and she was eating purees and foods at the time. We were driving an hour out to a farm to get raw goat's milk and feeding her that because she had some issues with traditional dairy. So we pieced it together, but it was really tough. And we were always getting asked for formula because it's such a difficult thing. Like you said, many moms don't have any other options, and the choices out there were really limited. Even the best of European formulas were not great. Plus, the FDA last year cracked down on European formulas, and it made it almost pretty much impossible. The formulas we were using, we could not get today. So, it was, it's even worse today, the situation, plus the formula shortage. So Serenity, having been passionate about this, and given that we had resources as a baby food company, got on a mission to create a better formula, and worked with Dr. Sarah Valentine, a really powerful nutrition scientist. She read over 200 papers on breast milk, basically every study written in English globally of breast milk ever done. This woman read through and mapped the nutritional profile of breast milk on a global scale, so not just American breast milk, but globally, and then looked at hundreds of different ingredients to piece together what would mimic nutritional profile of that, and helped us create our grass-fed A2 whole milk formula. It starts with A2 milk, which is there's a whole rabbit hole on A2 versus A1 milk. It's a genetic mutation. We've mutated our milk supply to go for quantity over quality, right? And that created a milk protein that is irritating to most people's guts. Whereas, and to some people, it's so irritating they can't even drink it. And so A2 milk is more similar to breast milk, goat milk, camel milk. All other mammals' milk is A2. The only A1 milk is this mutated milk from dairy cows that have been bred. So we found these amazing dairy cows that are regeneratively farmed out in California, all grass fed, and really, really amazing A2 milk. And that's the basis. It starts there. We take the whole milk, so we leave all the fat in. And then we supplement it with 8 other fat sources. So we have the most complex fatty acid profile of any formula. Most formulas have 1, 2, maybe 3 fat sources, and we have 8 because it's the fat in breast milk is so complex. So really elaborate fat sources, as high quality of vitamin sources as possible. We didn't have to add as many vitamins because the milk itself is already so nutritious. Okay. But we do supplement with vitamins. We use natural forms, and particularly there's no folic acid, which is a synthetic creation, and we use a methylated B formulation, which is much more absorbable to the gut. We include prebiotic fiber from inulin, which most formulas don't have fiber, breast milk does. And then we use lactose as the carb source, which is the same as the carb source in breast milk. So just across the board, as similar to breast milk as we could get. We use wild algae oil for DHA, so it's a non-hexane extracted wild algae oil. The DHA in fish comes from them eating algae, so we went straight to the source of the algae. So we've just upgraded every nutrient possible to create this very nutrient dense, very good tasting. It actually tastes better than most formulas.
What would an adult think it tastes like?
I mean, it doesn't taste exactly like milk, but pretty close.
Okay.
Like we have adults that actually drink it or use it as a supplement, and then we tasted it obviously all the time. We've tasted lots of other formulas. So it's one of the best tasting of all the formulas on the market, and certainly the most nutrient dense. We are not FDA approved as an infant formula, which is a very long, multi-year, multi-million-dollar process, which is why we've got a formula shortage right now, is because the FDA makes it so hard to get an innovative product certified. And so, even though we match all the nutrient profiles of infant formula, we're made in an infant formula certified facility, the process is so long and expensive, we haven't been approved yet. We are in the process of applying for temporary approval via the FDA's Emergency Act to get more infant formulas out. So hopefully we'll be able to market to infants soon. But right now it's classified as toddler, and we can recommend it for 12 months and up.
Right. Totally understand. If it were FDA approved for infant use, there's nothing about it you would change in the formulation.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, we designed it to be an infant formula. Like that was what we made it to be.
Got it. Okay. And that's awesome. Is it a powdered formula? How does it come?
Yep, comes in a powder, same as all traditional formula, 1 scoop formula for 4 ounces of water. So 2 scoops for a traditional 8-ounce bottle. So very similar to regular formula, very easy to use. Very easy to use for toddlers as well, like as a nutrition supplement. We have all these toddler smoothie recipes or popsicles or ways that you can continue to use our formula as a replacement or in addition to regular milk, since it's whole milk to begin with,
right,
plus all these other benefits. There's a lot of benefits to it over just regular whole milk.
What would you say the benefit is over, because I can buy A2 milk at my grocery store. So obviously there's stuff added to it, but how would you rate the differences between just pouring a cup of whole A2 milk?
Now, you're lucky you can get whole A2 milk at your grocery store. Not everybody can.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. It may or may not be grass-fed or regeneratively farmed, so the source matters. But then, we have those 8 other fat sources, so really complex fatty acid profile, a huge suite of vitamins, including the DHA from algae oil. So we have actually a comparison to whole milk.
Oh, great. Okay. I'll include links for people.
Yeah. So you can see a comparison to the whole milk, a comparison to other formulas to really see how we measure up.
Yeah, because my good friend, Dr. Ken Berry, and his wife, Nisha, have said the best thing for infants or toddlers, if you can't use breast milk, if you need supplement, has been goat milk that's available. And I'd be interested to know, not that they thought that was as complete, but they were very unhappy with any available formulas. So yeah.
Goat milk is A2, so that's a big benefit of it. It's smaller because we don't produce it in mass.
Yeah.
The quality can be a little greater. We were using raw goat milk, so that was another level of quality because we were able to get it raw, so a lot of vitamins and nutrition. But it's not considered complete for an infant, right? Like there's not enough fat, there's not enough carbs, there's not enough of the other vitamins and so forth.
Right. Yeah, it's but I love that. Well, I definitely will have to check that product out. I haven't tried it. Maybe you guys send me one. I'll try it out.
Yeah, we'll send you some.
But what do you think the difference is that this creates in children to have these kinds of products available on the market?
Oh, there's so many things that it helps with. First and foremost, they're rapidly developing at this stage. Their spine doubles in the first year of life. Their brain is growing rapidly. And so the brain is powered by fat. Fat is essential for brain. The spine contains a lot of fat. So fat is a key nutrient for brain and spine development. They say babies need 30 grams of fat a day, which is, for you or me, would be like 300 grams of fat a day.
Yeah, the proportion is high, yeah.
Yeah, so a huge, they say before the age of 2, half their calories should be from fat. So fat is really essential by all, everyone agrees that fat's really key to growth and development. Obviously, the type of fat's important. So animal fats being saturated fats being really important and absorbable, olive oil, avocado oil being healthy fats. These polyunsaturated or industrial seed oil fats can be really problematic and, create inflammation. So growth and development's really key. Meat being a great source of that fat, as well as the protein and other vitamins, bioavailable. Meat's just one of the most nutrient dense foods.
I'm with you on that one.
When we say every bite counts is our motto, feeding a baby, every little bite you get into them matters at this stage of development. Go for the most nutrient dense, which is meat. And then second to that is vegetables, right? Those are your cores. Beyond that, there's palate formation. So from age 6 months to 18 months, they're creating their palate preferences. They call it the flavor window. And there's a lot of data on if babies are given disproportionate amount of sweet foods, they will prefer sweet foods and they essentially want sugar. And the whole food industry has set this up. Baby food was all sugar. All the rest of children's food are packed with sugar. And when we have a bunch of sugar addicts, a bunch of obesity, diabetes, it's criminal. And so the way to prevent that is you introduce a lot of different flavors early on, and then they're much more inclined to prefer various savory flavors, umami flavors, so forth. So we really put a lot of attention into a diverse flavor profile of our products so they really get to give that strong taste of bison or the taste of salmon or the taste of thyme and rosemary or, these rich flavors that may be hard to expose them to on your own, but our products make it really easy to do. And then beyond that, there's actually a lot of behavior and mood stuff that people underestimate the role diet plays. All these things that people complain about with babies, constipation or diarrhea, skin rashes, crying and fussiness and mood swings and lots of crying, difficulty with sleep, getting sick or getting illnesses, all those are impacted by food. So the more nutrient-dense foods like ours will boost immunity, can improve skin, can improve sleep, can improve mood stability. You eat a bunch of sugar and then, we all know what happens when you eat a bunch of sugar and nothing else. You get that sugar crash and we're fussy, we're irritable, we don't sleep as well. So the satiation that comes from nutrient-dense foods like fats and meats and vegetables really can really make a mom's life a lot easier in regulating everything from stools to sleep.
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah. It's interesting. I've got he's not really my nephew, but I call him my nephew. But Ken and Nisha's son was basically fed. The sweetest thing he ate his first year were strawberries, right?
Awesome.
And as a toddler now, I watch him just want meat. He just wants meat and strawberries and meat and strawberries. He loves strawberries, but it's like, I think if you gave him cake, he'd be curious, take a few bites and probably think, what the heck is this? This is terrible.
Totally. Our daughter's favorite food to this day are green olives.
Wow. All that is intense.
She eats the crap out of olives. She can eat a jar a day if we let her. She loves green olives. She eats tons of meats. She still loves sweet foods. There's a biological thing that says it's
energy, right? Seeds energy.
It's hyper palatable. So, she'll still eat some cake if you let her eat cake, but she doesn't eat nearly as much. She doesn't eat the whole piece. She's happy to eat protein in addition to it. Yeah. So, it really makes a big difference later on and prevents that picky eating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. My actual niece, the littlest one, she her favorite foods are fermented foods. Kimchi, like spicy kimchi, sauerkraut, anything like that intense fermented vinegary thing. It's so cool to see like a 5-year-old like in the kimchi jar.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So what are you trying to build? Like, what is Serenity? I mean, not necessarily like your business structure, but like, what are you trying to bring to the world?
Yeah. Well, our long-term vision is to be a children's food company. We want to make foods for kids starting age 0 through 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. Like, we want to really change the landscape of the way kids are fed, because it's so awful. We have an epidemic of sugar addiction and all the health problems that come with it. And so we really want to make it easier for parents to feed their kids nutrient-dense foods. We believe most parents really want to feed their kids healthier. It's very hard to do, especially on the go, especially when all of kids' foods, are packed with hyperpalatable sugars and grains, industrial seed oils, marketed to them. And especially packaged foods, you're busy on the go. You just can't make everything. So our commitment is to make products that are nutrient dense, genuinely nutritious, not just not bad for you, but full of nutrition, that taste good to kids, that kids genuinely like, to show that health food doesn't have to taste bad. It actually can taste great. And that are also convenient for parents, so that making it easier for parents to do that. Really, we're starting with baby foods, and we're continuing. We've got another year or two in the baby aisle on replacing every baby food category there is, and then expanding into children.
Got it. So might you head into like frozen food options or entrees that people could serve their kid?
That's the goal. Okay. Snacks, meals, drinks, full suite of products. Like our eventual goal would be that a parent could buy exclusively our products for all their packaged foods needs, to supplement homemade foods, right?
When you can't cook.
Right. We're not a replacement for real homemade food, right? That's not our goal. Like, our goal is like, hey, if you're on the go, you need a thing, you need to send something to grandma's, they're bringing something to lunch and you didn't have time to make it, we provide that option.
Got it. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. In terms of like the behavior, like I know in my history, and as you mentioned earlier, right? Like the way I was aligned with food in my young childhood really led into a lot of problems into my teens and beyond. Both the types of foods that I gravitated towards and my like weird diet culture 80s issues. But, what do you see potentially if children are raised with this kind of approach to food instead of, but one of the things I noticed, like my boyfriend and I watch commercials sometimes on TV and we'll be like, do people eat that? Like some fast food. Now, granted, I ate a lot of fast food, but there's like, we've watched over the past few years, like there's sort of a specific, like everything is very spicy that's advertised on TV, like flaming hot Cheetos, flaming hot chicken sandwich. And I thought, are people's taste buds burnt out? Like what's going on in the world? And then I read about this case where a child like went blind because all he was eating were like chicken tenders. And it was like this very short list of foods that had like no vitamin A in it. And I just think like, does your company have like an education portion that you're trying to do? Like, how do you get people to know how important this is?
Yeah, education is a huge mission of ours, because when you go to the aisle, sort of, if Serenity hadn't been a nutrition nerd, she might have assumed that what was on the aisle was what was best for babies.
It's what the FDA, RDA, whatever thing recommends, right?
Clearly, if there was a demand for it, if it's good for babies, it'd be on the aisle, right? So it's just not true. And so, fat has been a big part of our mission, of educating how important fat is, countering this anti-fat movement. We're winning in that regard. Like fat every year is
more popular.
Accepted. Sugar, there was already a lot of awareness about, fortunately. So we're helping continue to grow the awareness of how dangerous sugar is, and helping educate the fact that processed fruit is really not that much better than cane sugar, like just because it's no quote added sugar, but it's full of processed
with
fruit,
grape juice is
right?
not that different. Yeah.
Applesauce,
Yeah.
like it's really trying to help see that if it tastes sweet, it's problematic, both from a nutrition lacking perspective as well as a flavor profile perspective. And then meat, there's all meat has been demonized. And it's really, they say it's not the cow, it's the how. So really educating about regenerative agriculture, pasture-raised food systems, and how important they are to climate solutions, how big a part of regenerative agriculture is one of the biggest tools we have to reverse climate change and feed the planet and improve all of our nutrition. And if we just boycott all meat rather than support the farmers that are doing it right, then it really hurts that movement. So doing a lot of education on that. And ultimately, we want children to grow up with a greater understanding of the role food plays in our bodies and in our world. That the food system, from the farmers and the animals and the soil microorganisms, how that affects our bodies, how what we choose to eat shouldn't be entirely dictated by our tongue, by one little organ, but like this intuitive eating idea of like, I want to let my body, choose what it wants from what's really best for it. And this idea of diversity, that healthy food doesn't have to be bland or taste bad, that, rich fatty meats are actually really good for you, that salt, in a lot of respects is really good for you, that vegetables can be prepared in really yummy ways. It doesn't have to be sweet to be delicious. And just that whole understanding of what I eat is going to affect how I feel. It's going to affect how healthy I am. It's going to affect how long I live. It's going to affect the quality of my relationships, and that's, I think, what we're really trying to teach people, and that they don't have to compromise all that for packaged foods is the specific value proposition we offer, is that you can eat well at home and you can eat well on the go.
Awesome. You mentioned salt. I'm a big fan of salt. I was in Utah recently and was at Redmond's Real Salt. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Sure. We love that salt. Yeah.
Do you source your salt from a specific location, or is it just you have a list of salt you'll use?
We use exclusively Himalayan sea salt.
Okay.
Himalayan pink sea salt. So it's from the Himalayas, which used to be underwater, if anybody wonders why there's sea salt in the Himalayas. Right. So it's the richest, most mineral-rich salt in the world. And we don't use very much of it because babies don't need very much. And our flavor, we go for flavor profiles that don't require a lot of it. Right. But when we do use it, that's what we use.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. As you get older, your need goes up more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you want to make sure people know about the product? We talked a little bit about where they can get it. I'll make sure to include links so they can find your website. And I assume there's maybe a product finder available there. What else would you like people to know?
Yeah, our website's myserenitykids.com. We do have a store locator there. We also, all of our products are for sale there. We have a really great subscription option, so you can set it and forget it. It's never too late to introduce our products. There's a lot of older babies and toddlers and children that are, they're selling fruit pouches to all kinds of kids, the
right.
Go-Go Cheeses and Mama Chias. If they're selling fruit pouches for kids, why not give them a meat and veggie pouch? So, my 7-year-old nephew loves our turkey bolognese bone broth pouch. So, there's an opportunity to use our products for older children, but obviously telling your friends about us. We're still pretty new, so a lot of people don't know we're out there. So letting moms know that there is something good on the baby aisle now that they can use is really important. Obviously, learning more about regenerative agriculture, as always, whenever asked for what more you can say.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the book. It's the cow, not the how, or it's the how, not the cow. I'm backwards. Yeah. Diana Rogers. Yeah.
Diana's one of our advisors, huge supporter. Just that importance of bringing meat back and spreading the word. It's we've really gotta counter the anti-meat propaganda and understand how important it is to our bodies and important it is to our planet.
Absolutely. Well, I totally support that. I'm so glad that we could talk today, and I'll make sure people know how to get a hold of you. I think, it's like one of the things that happens is you get into this place where you're like, well, but breastfeeding is great. Let's just do that. And then you don't always think about that there are sometimes other needs that need to get covered. And I'm glad there's a good option that exists in the world rather than just the sucky ones.
That's the idea,
Yeah.
breast.
Yeah, I know you almost went with that tagline, right? Not as sucky, but it didn't pass the test, I understand.
We actually call ourselves the second healthiest baby food on earth.
Oh, nice. I like it. All right. Okay, well, have a fabulous day, and I will see you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.